The dangers of anti-cheat software. Here we go.
This video is brought to you by Guardio. Stick around to hear more about their Chrome extension security application. Alright, this isn't exactly breaking news per se, but I believe it's an important topic and comes with some very real words of warning to anyone who participates in pretty much any mainstream PC gaming.
Okay.
Let's begin with context. Anti-cheat, by and large, is a beneficial and necessary part of online video games. Setting aside a fair bit of controversy with regards to the invasive nature of how some of the software operates or how it affects individual performance, anti-cheat as a general premise is just flat out necessary. Think about any first-person shooter and consider the fact that even a small percentage of players who are able to circumvent game systems and cheat will ultimately ruin the experience for everyone. It's actually
it's like it's the kid that shit in the pool, right? Like, one kid shits in the pool, everybody else has to get out of the pool. So it's like one person can just ruin everybody else's fun.
Very interesting tangent of research. Riot Games is the company best known for looking into how a splinter set of players can legitimately destroy the entire community,
yes,
which revolves around the idea that even 5% of players deliberately ruining a match or cheating, when matches contain 10 players total, will mean
it's like, remember back in Halo 2, whenever you got up, like, past, like, and this is, like, a little bit true in Halo 3, but it was mainly Halo 2 it was really bad in. For, like, 2 years, you would get into games, like, every time you got above, like, level 35 or so, you would get into games, and then the game would blue screen, and you'd be on the blue screen for, like, 5 minutes, and then you'd finally join the game, and one team would have 35 points out of 50, and your team would have 0. Yeah, you're on standby. Yeah, you're just sitting there on that blue fucking screen. And then, like, everybody is, like, in the game for, like, 3 seconds. They're like, oh, man, what the fuck? Oh, come on, bro. No, not again. Bro, I was going to rank for this. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, bro. And, like, just, like, beating the fucking desk and shit. People are fucking mad.
Statistically, on average,
awful.
Half of your games contain some sort of unfair circumstance, and 25% of your games contain someone either throwing the game on your team or someone cheating on the enemy team.
Cheating in video game, in like PUBG had this, and it was awful. Like, PUBG was the worst thing for cheaters. Like, I remember I was, like, crouching, and I was moving up over the hills of, like, the desert area, and there was some guy that was, like, 300 meters away from me. And he had his crosshairs on where my character model was from behind the fucking rocks. So there's no way he could have heard me. And he's leading me up through the rock to the moment that I fucking pop my head out, he fucking shoots me. And this is like a 10-minute game, right? It's a 15-minute game. And so, like, the problem is that, like, whenever you have somebody that's cheating, and you have, like, a culture of expecting cheating to happen in games, you no longer have the feeling that whenever you fight against somebody who's, like, just way fucking better than you, you're never like, holy shit, like, I need to get better, right? And every time you lose to somebody, you always have in the back of my mind, was that legit? So it just completely kills the integrity of the game. And so people don't take death seriously. It makes them take the game less seriously. And it just sucks, man. It's awful.
Big picture here, even just 2 to 3% of a player base deciding to utilize third-party cheat systems can totally destroy the future of an online game. Thus, with that in mind...
Well, yeah, that's like think about that. In like 2%, that's 2 hackers in every single BR. That's fucking massive. Did you have 2 hackers in the same game?
Anti-cheat as a general premise is quite obviously required.
Yes.
Good in theory, necessary in reality, and supposedly a positive impact overall, anti-cheat is something we see in pretty much every single online video game.
Yes.
Sure, there are exceptions, yes, and of course not all anti-cheat is equivalent, but software designed to prevent hackers from tampering with in-game code is an industry staple. However, what if that industry staple was dangerous? What if, instead of protecting you, anti-cheat software was actually compromising your security and allowing hackers to infect you with ransomware? What if the security measures that modern video games employ were more dangerous by themselves than anything they might have prevented? And what if this was a widespread danger? Obviously, that's a little bit hyperbolic right now, but the point stands, and I'll explain precisely how. Before going further, let's talk about Guardio. This video is all about cybersecurity.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe how bad this is.
To disable antivirus, etc., but with that, there are a lot of additional risk factors online. Guardio is a Chrome extension that offers threat tracking and online protection. Here's an example. Browsers often store banking information, personal details, login credentials, and more. We do this for convenience, but it turns your browser into a literal goldmine when it comes to intruders. Guardio, unlike traditional threat response software that only reacts when you have already been compromised, will work proactively to detect threats before they ever reach your browser. And if you click the link down below right now, you can have a free scan, as well as a 7-day trial of threat removal. And after that, it's $10 per month, but upper echelon...
This is very relevant after the whole, the Twitch stuff. Yeah.
Community members will receive 20% off. Guardio is very well placed in particular as a defense against malicious Chrome extensions. I've talked about a recent social media hacking wave that targets YouTube channels in particular, and it sometimes does this by utilizing an infected download which will then hijack your browser. One wrong download can compromise your entire digital life. I am acutely aware.
I'll tell you guys this. Whenever you want to download a... Like, never go to the websites that, like, are, like let's say for, like, OnlyFans leaks or something like that. Never download anything from a sketchy website. Just never let anything go on your computer. It doesn't matter how hot she is. It's not worth it. Okay? Now it's too late? Yeah. It's not worth it, man. Don't download anything from sketchy websites at all. It's a trap. Yeah, there you go.
And Guardio is here to help. Guardio offers a host of services from identity monitoring to data breach alerts. Also, if you sign up through mobile, you can get real-time alerts when your data is leaked, which lets you take action immediately and will help protect you and your browser from online threats. They have a $10 per month subscription, but upper echelon community members...
All the time, like, I remember, like, my mom, like, had, like, Norton antivirus. And God, bro, I wish I had a virus. It would have been better. Holy shit. It's like, yeah, look at me. I'm the virus now. Oh my God. It's like every 5 minutes they came up with a pop-up. Oh, we stopped a harmful attack on your computer from China. And she's like, what? I'm being attacked by China? Are they trying to... They don't want me to read this stuff. That must be what it is. And so, like, I worry that any of these things... Like, I hope that this isn't what this what this sponsor does. And I also, like, if they ever see this, the sponsor does... Don't fucking send these alerts out randomly. Like, it's so stressful for people. Like, that's what Norton used to do, and, like, McAfee antivirus was even worse. Yeah, McAfee was the virus all along. There you go.
Will get 20% off and a 7-day free trial if they use the link down below in the description. Again,
yeah.
$10 per month for evolving threat protection of your Chrome browser with a discount of 20% and a 7-day trial when using the link down below in the description. Big thank you to Guardio for sponsoring the channel. Keyword today, kernel. What is kernel level access? What does kernel even mean?
It's like corn.
And why does it matter? The kernel of an operating system is basically the nucleus of the cell. It's the first step up from mechanical hardware and manages what can be viewed as the most basic essential operations on a personal computer. A kernel is effectively the first program loaded on startup and the last program closed on shutdown. It's basically an interface between user applications and hardware, which means, in no uncertain terms, it has total control of your computer, aka full access to every resource and process.
I never knew
this
kernel
is
was that
universally
powerful.
true. I don't mean that I have the best technical definition possible. I just mean that kernel level access is the deepest and most powerful access you can possibly have to an operating system. Why does it matter? Simple. It matters because more and more anti-cheat systems in video games are operating in Ring 0, which means with kernel level privileges.
Yeah, I think that doesn't Face It use kernel level privileges too? My understanding is that they do. Is Vanguard kernel level? Valorant does this also? Yeah. Face It doesn't, Valorant does. Oh, I might have misunderstood. Okay.
This means that the anti-cheat, in an effort to monitor your system for third-party software, hacks, and cheats, descends into the depths of your computer with absolute authority and makes determinations about what should and should not function in the video game. Theoretically, this is a good thing. In a perfect world where security flaws and exploits don't exist, this could prevent all hacking on a local system and preserve game integrity, or maybe nearly all hacking on a local system, without risk to the user's personal security. Again, in an ideal world, but we don't live in a perfect world.
No, mistakes happen.
Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is a game that I do not respect nor enjoy. It's wildly popular.
This is like, it's so fucking funny, because whenever he showed that, I actually for a second thought it was Tower of Fantasy.
I understand why that is true, but I hate the game as a result of its gacha format, balancing, time gating, and overall gameplay. Personal preference, nothing more. Like I said, it's wildly popular, and I understand why that is. But Genshin Impact is also much more than just a video game. Utilizing in-house proprietary anti-cheat, Genshin Impact operates with Ring 0 kernel-level access privileges. To combat third-party modification software, MiHoYo, the developer of Genshin Impact, uses anti-cheat called MHYProt2.sys.
Oh, I know what that is.
MiHoYo Protection2.system, or something similar. Here's the thing. In 2020, MiHoYo faced a bit of controversy because their anti-cheat systems with kernel-level access were automatically running in the background and would persist even when the game itself had been closed. This was especially troubling when you consider the fact that MiHoYo is a company from mainland China, and that Chinese CCP governmental orders and special intelligence laws, from more recently, have stated that any and all information from technology companies can be viewed or used by state-run intelligence services at their full and sole discretion. Basically, if the CCP wanted, they could unilaterally gain full access to MiHoYo's files, and that means that they could have control, or at least all information from, a kernel-level piece of software on tens of millions of computers worldwide. Obviously, that's a reductive way of describing all this, but still pretty scary.
That's insane. Like that, yeah, that's absolutely fucking insane. Holy shit. Yeah, China on my PC. Yeah, CCP is speaking to everyone does it. Isn't it the same with the US? Yeah, but a lot of us live in the US, so, like, I would say that people are generally a little bit more distrustful of the Chinese government than the US government, but it's a race to the bottom.
By itself, that's already a credible reason to be skeptical of anti-cheat software operating with kernel-level access, at least for this one game in particular, but there's more. It turns out that hundreds of games, through various different anti-cheat programs, operate at a kernel level, including many of the most popular games on Earth. The primary culprit, as if we needed any more reasons to dislike Epic Games, is Easy Anti-Cheat, which can be found in over 140 different games, with a total number above 250 when you account for other anti-cheat software from different publishers.
Wow.
That's a tremendous number of games requiring the most privileged access to your system that can possibly be given, and as I went through looking at this topic, I had to make special mention of this, because it seems like once in a while, on occasion, there's a big controversy for one specific game, lamenting the fact that kernel-level access is being used by the anti-cheat.
Yeah, this is very... What I was saying before about, like, the Face It thing, and it turned out it wasn't Face It, it was actually Valorant. This is common with minigames.
Very little is ever said about the literal hundreds of other popular titles that also have it. Example, after Doom Eternal announced that they would use kernel-level access de novo anti-cheat, there was a massive amount of backlash.
Yeah.
Admittedly, this also had to do with the DRM measures that de novo contained as well.
I think also one of the reasons is, like, Doom Eternal is a single-player game, isn't it? I'm pretty sure Doom Eternal, like, this isn't a competitive game. Right? Yeah, I've never played it, so I'm not sure. It has multiplayer? Okay. Yeah, if a game doesn't have multiplayer, it doesn't need anti-cheat.
Which affected game performance, but a significant component of this backlash was against kernel-level access for the game's anti-cheat. So much so, in fact, that Bethesda eventually backtracked and removed it.
Wow.
I find this funny because, as justified as that is and was, why is this outrage so obviously selective? One game will make...
Most outrage is selective because people don't understand it, and it's also just the way news cycles run. If there's a game that people have a lot of expectations behind it, any altering of those expectations is seen more acutely. It's like, for example, if there's a game that's really bad, like, oh, Diablo Immortal added a new store item, everybody's talking about it because everybody hates Diablo Immortal. It's the same as if, like, let me think, a game that's really well-liked. If, like, a Valorant adds new skins, they're both store items, but people aren't going to care. They're going to be excited for the new skins. So it's just probably based off of people's expectations of the game.
Media headlines for a week straight over the pushback against this type of security intrusion,
yeah.
While other, more popular, even larger games containing the exact same type of access never see the same kind of exposure at all. It's odd, and I don't really...
Unfortunately, I can't give better commentary on what the difference between the different anti-cheats are because I just don't understand them that well. I know people are saying things in chat. I don't understand it well enough to be able to really give any sort of a nuanced opinion about, like, why one is bad and the other one isn't.
Understand why it is. Regardless, hundreds of high-profile games contain kernel-level access anti-cheat, and with that access comes the risk of vulnerability. Some creators and security professionals have been warning about this for years, stating that risks far outweigh the benefits. In my own experience, having extensively scoured a number of third-party hacking forums for a couple of video topics about a year ago, it is readily apparent that there are plenty of hacks that already bypass anti-cheat software with kernel-level access, rendering it effectively obsolete anyway when compared to other less invasive options. But the primary concern here is that anti-cheat operating at ring 0 with kernel-level access can be a vehicle for malicious actors. That is precisely what has now happened with Genshin Impact. Keep in mind, anti-cheat software is not something that has been integrated for your safety. It's a program that has been integrated by gaming developers, not security experts, to preserve the integrity of their in-game economy or prevent...
Well, it is... safety is, like, probably not a good word to use, but anti-cheat is done to improve the experience of the player. Like, I will say that. I think anti-cheat is a good thing. The problem is that a lot of times with these companies and the anti-cheat, they don't have a lot of... there's not a lot of liability with it. That's what the real issue is.
Player-based decline
in-game, though.
Yeah,
it's
unfair
in-game.
matches. This is for the security of the game, not for the security of your machine. And that is a key fact of the matter to understand going forward. In August of 2022, identified by Trend Micro, Genshin Impact's Ring 0 antivirus was being used by third-party hackers as a ransomware vehicle. Ransomware just means they hijack your system and then they basically charge you money to get access to it
crypto to get it back.
They hold your files or your system ransom. Without getting too technical here, the anti-cheat of Genshin Impact was exploited by malware to infiltrate and shut down the local antivirus protections, which made it possible for complete control of an infected system. Users who installed Genshin Impact, even if they themselves on that particular account or login were not administrators, or technically inclined even, were also...
They should try this on Tower of Fantasy and see how deep the the stealing went. Maybe they could also fucking... Maybe they stole the anti-cheat too, you know?
Also installing the anti-cheat, which would descend into their system and become an exploitable rabbit hole where attackers could get access to their machine at a level that they as a user didn't even have access to. All because of the game itself. Another example, the ESEA, the Esports Entertainment Association, had anti-cheat client software that members could download. This was as far back as 2013, and that anti-cheat through elevated and privileged access was actually a mechanism to deploy and execute a massive Bitcoin mining botnet. It's unclear precisely how many machines were infected at that time, but the crucial thing to remember is that anti-cheat software is not actually protecting you. It is simply protecting the intended format of in-game operations or gameplay. Your system? Yeah, anti-cheat makes you more vulnerable, not less. There are free hacks on GitHub right now to exploit Genshin Impact's proprietary anti-cheat, but for those still skeptical, who expect more examples in order to support my initial, admittedly slightly hyperbolic statements, how about this? Punkbuster, the second most prominent kernel-level anti-cheat software behind Easy in the entire industry, has a significant number of vulnerabilities, outlined by dedicated Battlefield community members. This anti-cheat software can be used to execute remote attacks, and it can be found in dozens of high-profile video games.
Holy fucking shit. I'll be right back. I had to use the bathroom. This is nuts. This is what... Yeah, oh my god. Sorry. I had to take a shit. Wash hands? Yeah, wash my hands. Chill out. Let's go.
There certainly are some examples of anti-cheat software operating with kernel-level access that seems to be functioning as intended, and is not widely exploited, but the option for them to be used in such a way will always exist. Right now, it's Genshin Impact. They may have fixed the issue by now since I initially looked at this and wrote my script, or patched it, whatever, but the point stands, which had an estimated 60 million monthly active players for Genshin Impact as of August 2022. If an exploit were to be uncovered for easy anti-cheat, that's hundreds of millions of players collectively who would be vulnerable to it, and all because there is an effort by developers to prevent sophisticated third-party cheat programs. They already lost that battle, by the way, I can say this from a position of certainty. But as they continue to double down, the very...
I don't think that developers have lost the battle of anti-cheat at all. I think that it's a cat and mouse game. 1 month developers are winning, the next month the hackers are winning, and then the next month the developers are winning. Like, it just goes back and forth over and over and over.
Programs that they are using to try and increase security are becoming dangerous to the players who download them. Bottom line, I stand by my initial statement. Anti-cheat software is far more dangerous than pretty much anything it prevents, because in a devil's trade of sorts, players are sacrificing their own system security in order to have a few less hackers who ruin their in-game experience.
Yes, that's right. And he is right about that. A lot of people are willing to do that because they don't give a fuck. Like, they just want to be able to play the game and not get hacked. It's like, really, it's like you go out, you're driving, like you can get in a wreck whenever you're driving, but the chances of that happening are very low. Actually having your computer affected by something like this, at least so far, hasn't been widespread enough to where it's in the public's mind. So a lot of people don't really care about it because it's probably not going to affect them. It's just people make a risk evaluation. Risk evaluations are incredibly common with many things.
I understand the desire, I understand the need to fight against third-party cheats, generally speaking, but Ring Zero kernel-level access is not the way that it should be done. That's it. If you want to support, there are links down below, primarily Locals and Patreon. Locals is where I post completely ad-free videos, audio podcast versions, and I'll be writing articles there soon with the scripts that I write. There is Odyssey, a YouTube platform alternative where all my content can be found. Merchandise, social media, another YouTuber to check out, Guardio to protect your browser, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.
It is a problem. It's something to keep in mind, and I think that it's really about accountability. As long as there's accountability for these companies, it's not that big of a deal. It was not a fun fact. No, it was a fact, but not a fun one. No, you're absolutely right about that. All I'm really trying to get at with this is, like, yes, anti-cheat can be bad. I think most people would make they would straight up say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people would say, I would rather take the risk of a 0.1% chance of my shit getting hacked than to play constantly with hackers in video games. I think a lot of people would actually make that decision. Because people play video games all the fucking time, and the chances of this happening are very low. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking stupid. I don't think that it's fucking stupid. I think that people take risks with entertainment all the time. They do things like this all the time, realistically. And I think the only problem with having these anti-cheats that have these vulnerabilities is if there's not accountability for the company. Because if the company doesn't have accountability, they don't have a vested interest in making sure that the anti-cheat doesn't have any sort of problems in it. And so I guarantee you they're not going to try as hard. You see what I'm saying? Riot's owned by Tencent, Chinese company. Vanguard's also proprietary and Ring Zero. Well, I'm not sure about each individual, like, you know, these, like, you know, corporate fucking things. I have no idea. This is just, like, in general, what my opinion is. The problem is you don't even need to have the game installed. The malware comes with a copy of the game anti-cheat. I don't think that's really part of what it is. I think that there's a lot of people that have the game installed and they don't want to have something in their on their computer that could affect, you know, could like make them lose money or something. I don't know. I think it's very simple, like what I'm saying. So yes, I do think that it's a very bad thing. It can be, but I think if it's tempered by accountability, it's probably a decision most people would still agree with, knowing the risks. I do think that's the case. Like that is my assumption, is that I think most people, if they were able to make the decision of, you know, there's like a very, very low chance that you could get hacked by using anti-cheat, but if you use anti-cheat, you'll play with way less cheaters. I think most people would just use the anti-cheat. That's my opinion. And I think that also it's evidenced by the fact that all of these games have anti-cheat, and this is not very well known, but it is known that kernel level access can be, you know, co-opted in a bad way, and there have been these articles, and people are still playing the games with them. So it clearly hasn't moved the needle that much. Having anti-cheat running at all times, even if the game isn't open, is a problem for sure. It's like, there's always going to be a cat and mouse game between the cheaters and the developers. Like, this is always the way it goes. Another massive problem is half the time the anti-cheat doesn't delete after you delete the game, which means that you have the right on a PC. Yeah, I understand that. I do. Another large issue is these drivers, when signed by a company, can be loaded by the kernel without even installing the program they're even associated with. Yeah, I think, again, this is something where there should probably have, like, I mean, ideally, I don't think this would ever happen, but, like, it would be great if there was, like, legislation or, like, rules in place for this, so people don't just completely fucking, you know, go off the rails with this and just, you know, not give a fuck. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. Doesn't move the needle because reality is the downsides. These kernel access things don't result in any tangible negative for 99% of users. Exactly. And so until these things start getting hacked all the time and people start getting affected by this all the time, then nobody's going to give a fuck. That's what I think. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good video. I think it's good for everybody to know this. Like, we've watched a lot of upper echelon videos before, and I think this is also a very good one. But I'm not, like, I'm not super worried about it that much. Like, for me, I have all of my, like, important information in, like, another computer. But, like, most people don't do that. So, even for me, it's not really that big of a deal. I've ran 100 cheaters, but I've never been hacked through my anti-cheat. Exactly. And so that's the way most people are going to see it.